Okay, we're now at this stage where we've got our adaptations page built, and therefore all we need to do is start adding our content to it. So in this tutorial, I'm going to look at how we inspect the code so that we can easily adapt what is there and how we can replace the text that features as part of the page creation. As you can see, I've already added my text in. Prior to this, in the previous tutorial, you saw the masthead text running across here, simply saying adaptations. Well, it's no trouble, of course, to delete that and just type in whatever you want to type in. In my case, I've replaced it with Energy Studios. And you'll remember the slogan that ran underneath. Well, I've replaced that with this slogan. And also, dotted around the actual page itself, I've got an About header here. I've changed this one so it says Services, so I can add some further text underneath. And then in these container areas down here, I'm featuring some of the services. For example, I've got audio here, and to the right I've got video, and then moving down, well, you can see I've got web design. All very simple to substitute with the text that you want to use. Let's now look at something that's a little bit more complicated, but not particularly difficult. Where I've got my About box here, well, you can see the background is in blue, well, a sort of shaded greyish blue. Now, before we do anything else, let me just remind you, this is one page. All we've done is create one page, and from this, we're going to build all the other pages relevant to the site. I'm bringing that up now because if I simply want to change the colour of my About box here for this page, well, as you know, as a Dreamweaver user, it's simple enough to do that. However, I want this box to be site-wide, so that every page that subsequently gets built draws on the same CSS code to update this to a different colour should we choose to change it. Prior to doing this, I want you to have a look at this file first of all, this response.css file. If I select it, by looking at this response.css file, then you can see all the media queries have been built in as part of the page creation process. And you can see from lines 3 to line 6 here some comments, and you'll remember we used layout number 1, and as you can see there, media queries follows it. Now I suggest not changing anything within this response CSS file, certainly if you are just getting started with responsive website design, because to be quite frank, you don't really need to change anything. Everything will work as it is out of the box. And that's why I suggest using extensions like this when you want to build a quick responsive website that you can then feed out to your clients, or you could use it yourself, of course. I'm simply showing you this response.css file so you can look through to see how this perfect example has been built. So just simply scroll down and you'll see all the different media queries running down here for all the different sizes for all the different devices and browsers that are commonly available. Okay, so that's the CSS file for this. Let me go back to my design view and we'll get back to how we changed the color of this About box. To be able to do this means we need to open up this CSS file. Okay, and as you can see, our split view opens automatically, allowing me to go down and search out the particular rule that contains the relevant code for the background color of that About box. I'll just grab here and vertically scroll down. Now I'm looking for the rule.sidebar.content. Okay, here it is. And this is the line of code I want to change, my background color. At present, this color is set to 7A96AD. That's the reference number for that particular shade of blue. Now I'm going to delete this and change it to a different color. So I'm going to type in 0F6B19. What do you mean you don't know what that number refers to in terms of its color? We'll see in a moment. Now that is the background color, but you'll notice also underneath there is a shadow, a box shadow, that edges around the box to create a shadow effect. So because this shadow effect color will now not work with the new color, I want to change this. So I'm going to delete the existing 536F86 and replace it with 0E981D. Now, simply by going back to my design button, well, there you'll see my background color has been updated from that slate grey bluish color to this rather dark green color. Now, because my text is black on this rather dark green background, I might change this to white. And of course, a quick way of doing this is to select in the text somewhere and then come down to your color picker, so long as we are looking at our CSS properties. And even though it's just slightly off screen, I'm going to choose white. And there you go, it gets updated instantly. I might want to do the same thing for my header. However, Do bear this in mind. I'm going to change where it says About now, but because this rule applies not just to the About word, but also to the other header, notice what happens when I change it. I'll come down to my colour picker, and I'll change it to blue. Well, it doesn't work so well on my green background, I have to admit, but do notice what happens to all the other headings. They change instantly as well. So that's something to bear in mind. You're going to have to focus on where you change a particular line of code. If you do it in design view like this, yes, it is very visual, but you might inadvertently update text that you didn't particularly want to update. Let me show you that again. I'll go down to my colour picker and I'll change this to a sort of pinkish purple there. Fair enough, it still does work okay on a white background, but on my green background it's not so good. You might think, well, if I change it to white, I'll grab the colour picker and choose white. Well, there is the problem. It looks great on a green background, but because this is linking into text in other places, then if it's on a white background, that white text will simply disappear. So perhaps I'll just go back to black. So you can see how easy it is then when you want to change a background colour or the colour of a text or even replace text. Now let me go back to my code view because I want to change this back to how we started. And making sure I'm looking at this .sidebar.content code area, I'm going to take my box shadow colour back to what it was, and then I'm going to do the same thing for my background colour. And once I go back to my design view, well, there you can see we now have the same colour returned. I want to revert the text here from white back to black. Okay, so that's a run through then, how we inspect the code and how we adapt adaptations. So I'll finish up here and I'll see you in the next tutorial.